Hi, my name is Bianca Mandity, and I'm a new addition to the Copic's artist teams. I'm a fine artist, and my specialty is mixed media. Today, we're going to be learning a technique to create your own background papers. So for this project, you're going to need some recycled paper to turn into your background papers. For the first project, I'm using a piece of vintage leisure paper. You'll also need your Copic markers, ABS, some antibacterial hand sanitizer gel, a nonstick sheet, some large foam rubber stamps, and a cloth or a paper towel to wipe your stamps off on. So for this first step, you want to airbrush your color onto your paper. You want to try to stay within the same color family. I like to use 3 different colors for depth, but you don't want to go outside of the color family just because that can affect how the color bleaches out a little bit. So for this, I used BB08, BB25, and V09. So I've already laid my color down because my compressor is very noisy and I didn't want to videotape that. So the next step, once you've got your color laid down to your satisfaction, is you want to take your hand sanitizer gel and put a pile of it onto your nonstick craft sheet, just like that. Then you're going to take your large foam rubber stamp and you're going to ink it up into the gel. So you're just going to take it and sort of squish it into the gel. And I like to kind of tap it a couple of times to make sure that there's gel on there, but that it's not super thick or coming off of the sides. So once you've got your stamp inked up, you want to lay it down on your paper. You want to press firmly, but you don't have to press hard. And then you want to lift straight up into the air so you don't squish it. Once you've lifted it off, you want to wipe it off on your towel because sometimes it does pick up ink off of the paper, and we don't want to transfer that ink the next time we stamp. Then you're going to re-wet it and stamp. If you run out of hand sanitizer gel, if you're doing a large piece of paper, it's not a big deal. You can just put more down and re-ink. It's not going to change anything. And once you've got it stamped up to your satisfaction, you can just set it aside and let it dry. You can actually see it's already starting to bleach out a little bit in those first ones that I did. So for the second sample, I airbrushed several different colors on this. I started off working within the same color family. I used RV04, RV06, and RV09 to lay down the pink color. And then I went back in with BV08 and I did the lettering on top of it. Now when you use 2 colors that are in 2 different color families, what happens is it can bleed or blend differently than when you're working within the same color family. And the thing to remember is whatever color you put on last, so in this case it would be the purple, is the color that's going to blend out when you are stamping with the hand sanitizer. So it's the same process as before. You just want to put some on your non-stick surface and ink up your stamp. Just squish it around. Tap it off a little bit. And again, I'm just cleaning the stamp off in between each step. And once you have enough stamp designs on your page, you can just set it aside to dry. So this last one is a bit of a variation on what we've been doing. We're actually going to stamp color onto plain cardstock. And you can use this technique in combination with the previous one that we just did, but for this purpose I'm going to do this one separately. So what you're going to need is the Copic reinkers, your hand sanitizer, a stir stick of some kind, like an old popsicle stick or an old paintbrush, your foam stamp, and your receiving surface. So I'm just using a piece of plain cream cardstock. So for this one, I'm going to work with two different colors. So I'm going to put two different little piles of the hand sanitizer. And then I'm going to put one drop a piece of, this is the BV29, which is a slate color, but it actually comes out a little bit purple. And then the B05. So you just want to take your stir stick and stir the color into the hand sanitizer. Now this is going to lighten the intensity of the color, but that's fine because this is going to be sort of a watercolor effect on the paper when we're done. And you want to flip over your stir stick so that you're not using the same side for both colors, because that'll cross-contaminate the color. And once you've done that, you take your stamp and we're just going to put it down in the two different colors. So I like to kind of put them side by side like that, so that you've got the blue on one side and the slate on the other. Okay, so now that I've got it all inked up, so now you can see it stamped both colors onto the cardstock. For this one, I tend not to clean my stamp off in between steps because I like the way it looks when the colors are mixed together. All right, and then when you've got it stamped to your satisfaction, you can just set it aside and let it dry. So this is the first piece that we did, and you can see now that it's dry, the places where it was stamped with the hand sanitizer, it's turned really, really white. Some of that's the natural color showing through, and some of that's the reaction process between the chemicals in the hand sanitizer and the markers. And obviously there's no bleeding line of color like you would get if you stamped with the colorless blender. So it's definitely a different look. The nice thing about this is that the hand sanitizer doesn't leave any residual chemicals on the page since it's mostly alcohol. You can write on top of it, you can stamp on top of it, you can airbrush more color on top of it. There's just really no end of things that you can do to this once you've got it stamped. So this is the second piece that I did. And you can see here, any place where the text was airbrushed on, obviously like it's bleached out a little bit, but it's still there, it's sort of fading away. If you don't like how that looks, if you want your airbrushing for whatever you're stenciling on to be crisp, what you can always do is lay down your first layers of color, stamp on top of it, let it dry, and then airbrush your stencil on top of it. So that this airbrush stencil isn't being bleached out by the stamping. Here's another sample that I did trying the same process on a different piece of paper, and you can see green was the last color I put on, and it sort of bled out to green, and I didn't really like the way that it looked. So but you know, sometimes you got to try things just to see how it looks. So this is the last one that we did now that it's dry, and you can tell once it's dried, the color definitely is a lot gentler looking. It's not as bright, and it sort of has a watercolor look to it. This is another sample that I did using the exact same process and color combination, just a different stamp, and I stamped it onto a piece of old paper. So you can see it creates a nice depth and movement there. I'd like to thank you for watching my video tutorial, and I'd also like to say thank you to the lovely people at Copic Australia for allowing me to guest blog this month. If you have any questions or comments, you can go to my blog. My email address is accessible there, and I also have some other tutorials. So thanks so much.
A fever pitch is bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out, and I'll lay your ship bare. See, I'll leave with every piece of you. Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark.